All right, this post is called The Lamp, and it's kind of long like the last one, but it's really dense, and there's a lot of things that I was trying to explore in the beginning of my research, and I was trying to really kind of find the boundaries or the limits of it all. Just I had already found this code in these formulas and this sort of paper trail throughout these books and on the internet and in my own personal life. So I don't know, I was kind of not as knowledgeable about certain things as I am now, like even the title, The Lamp. Basically, the connection between the light in the body and the eye, and I was kind of honing in on that. And so again, I'm not going to give too much commentary. I'm just going to go over it, and hopefully there's not too many errors. And I see how naive I was in trying to condense all this in so many little things. But all right, before we can go any further in our spiritual and material evolution, we must look back at the foundation upon which our new world rests. All new discoveries in some measure rely on past achievements. So while it is healthy to avoid clinging too strongly to outdated views and practices, we must also make sure to take into account the foundation our achievements or advancements have stemmed from, because they often hold insights that may be more relevant in later stages of development. Though no religion has proven to be universally correct, nearly all of them encapsulate unique fragments of truth that quite often overlap or in some way relate to one another, sometimes without evidence of adaptation or direct communication of ideas between cultures. For this reason, it is important not to dismiss them all, but to consider them in view of our more advanced understandings and try to look at things the way they did in the past to get an idea of how exactly they got their conclusions. Science today is often validating the claims made by primitive man who wasn't in possession of the same technologies. For example, cultures like the Dogon of the Bandiagara region in Mali, Africa, have had specific astronomical knowledge of the Sirius star system that only modern scientists have been able to learn with high-powered telescopes. So while ancient teachings have been defective to a large extent, more often than not, they have some gold in them that is worth panning for. Any New Age... I should probably say, this picture, I don't know why I chose this picture. Probably because I saw the sort of irony of it, because Jesus wasn't white, as anyone would know. He was more dark. I mean, of at least Middle Eastern, Aramaic, Hebrew sort. And it's just how they make it so white and cozy, and with the dog. Oh my God, I just thought it was funny, because with the whole New Age, how bullshit, like how the veneer of a lot of it, when you go to like any bookstore and you see how capitalized it like a lot of that sort of stuff is, when yet it's supposed to be magic and individual, and like even the Satanic Bible, how the Satanic Church, or the Church of Satan, how conformist it already was from the start, like how not conformist but predictable and cliche, and it's just, how do you really get out of the system or off the spectrum? And even if you are, then how are you? It's all about measuring, and really that's where Mayotte comes in, and mathematics and all that. And there really is no escape from the fractal or from the code, and that's kind of what it's kind of what this ends up talking about. But anyway, that picture just is it's kind of unpleasant in its own way. Or at least to me, it's a paradox, or it's Typhonian in a way. Any New Age system that doesn't give credit to the traditions of old are most likely trying to promote their own agenda. Much of the occult or metaphysical literature today is so devoid of any history, it makes the whole subject seem childish and fictional. There are plenty of books about the chakras, astrology, tarot cards, etc., but very few actually give you any historical context or relate how these things have been developed over time. This could be attributed to some degree as misinformation, but most of it is probably just the product of the writer's lack of knowledge. And again, I haven't read this in years, but that's pretty much what I was getting at, how it gives everything I mean, there is a deep vein of I would say there's a deep vein of truth and something happening through human evolution, or as a part of human evolution, with a lot of what's been even in fiction. I think fiction has a something to be said for it. As much as I don't really prefer, I don't really like fiction. I won't read a fiction book unless it's like really compelling or something. But I think there is something to be said for it. I think that it helps with stimulate certain ideas, and as we know now, science fiction is almost like yearly, monthly, weekly, daily coming to life. So again, it's really all about how you want to look at things and how you paint things. So by understanding all the major teachings from around the world, we can see how most systems are the same or similar, differing only because of different cultural conditions of the place and time. Faith in any one doctrine is merely a vain hope, because more often than not, someone too lazy to look elsewhere is too lazy to look at their own prescribed religion. So wait, let's look at that. So I have some of these sentences where I'm like, it's very long-winded, and I was like just thinking, kind of writing as I was thinking. So faith in any one doctrine is merely a vain hope, because more often than not, someone too lazy to look elsewhere is too lazy to look at their own prescribed religion. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of faith band-aid that I kind of have the problem with orthodox or fundamentalists, in the sense that if you were to try to go to most churches, there's so many churches everywhere, and some places they're on every fucking corner. And yet if you try to go there, and I've been to so many different denominations and even non-denominational churches, so I've even been to like Wicca gatherings. I haven't been to any mosques or Muslim get-togethers, but I've been to a few different things, and some are better than others. But again, it's all about how you want to look at life in the world. But some that's the problem, is that a lot of context is lost. And when you just say, "Oh, I just believe it," or "I just have faith," well, yeah, that's a huge leap of faith, and some people need a little more substance and a little more foundation and a little, just more. And so, and I think that a lot of the people like preachers and these leaders and whatnot, even of these, what would you call outsider or fringe groups such as the Church of Satan or the OTO, they kind of don't tell you, they're kind of like sheep herders herding you into their way because it benefits them. And so really, even Crowley said, "Don't follow me. This is just where I've went." And at least in Magic Book 4, that's one of his whole tenets, is don't do as I say, but do, with the help of what I've done, take some of that into consideration, because otherwise you're going to have to go through it yourself. But sometimes that is obviously necessary, but some of the pitfalls can be avoided just by paying attention and learning, and learning from history. So, and this is just what institutions need to maintain authority: sheep. Is it any wonder why the preferred religion of the fattest and laziest country in the world is full of imagery of sheep and children? So, yeah, and that's pretty much what you'll find And there's a place for that focus. I mean, but for focus on those things, on structure and uh, whatnot. But at the same time, the very things that you think are what are keeping things in place can also be keeping things down. So you have to be careful of that. The dominance of the three major religions of the world, which are only cults with large flocks, are all slowly coming to an end. Whether humanity as a whole will survive such a collapse will be for us all to see and feel. Physical survival is most people's main concern, but what they fail to see in their spiritual immaturity is that there is in fact life after death, for death is rebirth. Fear may be what keeps us alive, but it also shackles us. Even if we die, the next form of being will be just as much a prison as before, if we still haven't unshackled ourselves from our lower spiritual karmas, which life is just an opportunity for us to attempt, if it be our will. The important thing is that we don't let our spiritual foundation completely burn out from under us out of fear, ignorance, or other lower uncontrolled emotions. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all have important aspects to them, but these aspects go unnoticed by those who only know as much as they are told. When one understands that religion is just as esoteric as it is exoteric, a whole entire universe can open up to the seeker, and what was a stagnant religion can become a very real, satisfying, and even magical personal path of experience. While I have already covered a large portion of Jewish mysticism, I would like to now discuss esoteric Christianity, particularly theomatics. I have not done much research into Islam, so I will leave that for a later post. The Holy Bible, for those who aren't aware, is not one book. It is a collection of 66 books that were written by at least 40 different people over the course of around 1500 years. The Old Testament consists of 39 books, while the New Testament has 27. There are also a few other non-canonical texts that were taken out or hidden, which are pretty important as well. The first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, were the original Hebrew Torah. They are said to be written by Moses, though in Deuteronomy his own death is described, so it is likely they were at least edited by other writers over time. The point is, very rarely the churches ever let anyone know about this actual history of the Bible. Well, I've been to a few different churches, and if it's not one of the churches that emphasizes singing or mainly sings, there's been one or two churches that actually talks about the history, but there's so much lacking. And I understand that, there's only so much time, but oh my God, it's just people don't want to learn about anything. It's sad. They are said to be written by Moses, though in Deuteronomy his own death is described, so it is likely they were at least edited by other writers over time. The point is, very rarely the churches ever let anyone know about this actual history of the Bible. An obvious precursory resource to avail yourself to is, of course, the Wikipedia article of the Bible, since it has a lengthy discourse of biblical history. Like Librael Veligius and other received texts, certain books of the Bible exhibit some evidence of preternatural intelligence directing or influencing the writers. By way of Kabbalistic exegesis, we can find some clues as to the nature of the text and find hidden connections with other systems and subjects. The most logical place to look in the Bible for a hidden code would be the very first verse, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Since the Old Testament is in Hebrew, it is important to refer back to the original text. Brashit bara Alhim Ath Hashemayim Vath Haaretz. Hebrew is written right to left, and the pronunciation of this verse is roughly Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim va'et Haaretz. Genesis 1:1 consists of 7 words and 28 letters. The sum of 1 through 7 is 28. The total numerical value of the 28 letters is 2,701, which happens to be 37 times 73, or the sum of 1 through 73. 2,701 can be rendered as a numerical triangle beginning from 1 to 73, and when this is done, a few things begin to stand out. This is, again, also what I talked about regarding the Bible wheel. There are certain things in this verse that are really important that cause you. It really just helps you to see this 37, the unfolding of Chakma. It helped me to just see certain things about the Kabbalah. This cordons off basically sits at 6. When you count up to the 36th line within the 2701 triangle, you can see that the total units amount to 666. 666 is the number of the 36th triangle, and 36 is 6 times 6. And 666 actually fits into 2701 three times, with a remaining 703 triangle in the center. 703 is 1 through 37. 666 is an extremely important number in biblical numerology, and we are told in the book of Revelation to count the number of the beast. I didn't even realize how deep this number really goes, and it's fucking deep. Little did I know when I was writing this. Anyway, Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. It should be noted that the Hebrew word for wisdom, chakma, equals 73 or 37 when counted with the ordinal value of the alphabet. Also, the word sum equals 666. And that kind of tells you to just add it up and how obvious it is. Here is wisdom. It is hidden in the letters. And these have the same value if you calculate it. More can be read about theomatics or biblical gematria at the Bible Wheel, and much more can be found scattered around various websites and forums. Many people have heard of the book The Bible Code by Michael Drosnin, but if you read it in the subsequent two, you'll find that there is virtually no mention whatsoever of gematria, isopsophy, or anything like what I've presented above. These books use a formula known as ELS, or equidistant letter sequencing, which looks for word patterns in relatively random combinations of letters or words. So yeah, I actually think that there's an active sort of like disinformation campaign about gematria. It's an easy thing to just write off and deny, and it has these ties obviously to the Bible, and the Bible itself is a sort of questionable source. But again, I don't take it to be proof of necessarily even the preternatural intelligence. I think it may be proof of certain us coming into awareness of certain geometrical properties that exist within numbers and that correspond with regions of the psyche and ideas and, again, correspondences that we weren't aware of at the time. And with computers now, it's a lot easier to catalog and analyze and sort of separate the cultural accretions from the functional mechanics of it all. It's a lot of work, but I think there's a lot to be said for it, and you can get a lot out of it. Using this single revelation, the entire universe is unveiled as the matrix in which spirit, these both equal 369, or Sophia, is crystallized as 369. And this is a number Tesla talks about, but it's also just, if you look at the number spectrum 1 through 9, 3, 6, and 9 are sort of these hinging numbers. The number of Malkuth, or the matter that spirit is clothed in. And 369 is also related to Yesod, and then 370 is the Hebrew word for creation, Ayin and Shin, which is like the fire in the eye, or the spirit in the eye, again, the body of light. Anyway, the number of Malkuth, or the matter that spirit is clothed in. 666 is the number of illusion in English gematria, I believe. Maya, the false perception of manifestation as being separate from self. Maya is the root of the word magic, thus magic, outer, mystic, inner. Notions of 666 being the number of the devil, or Lucifer, are correct in that 6 is the number of the solar self, Tifereth, in the center of the tree of life. And this is really what kind of is very... It's the central hinging part of what is kind of disconnected between Malkuth and Kether and Doth, and how that sort of interplays is something that kind of takes you, like, you have to wrap your own mind around in it, and you'll see. The Lucifer of the Bible was a fallen angel who, because of his pride, was cast to earth. So that's a symbol for the whole fall also. The name Lucifer means shining one or light bearer. He is considered synonymous with Satan, who in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4 is referred to as the god of this world, i.e. earth or Malkuth, the mundane plane, the physical plane. Man, after being deceived from this fallen angel in the form of the serpent on the tree of knowledge, was then himself exiled from the Garden of Eden, unity, where God then clothed him and Eve in coats of skin. Cthulhu equals 876, which is form in full. The tree of knowledge was the knowledge, doth, of good and evil, and life and of death. And since that was the tree who God warned not to eat from, for thou shalt surely die, and the wages of sin is death. 3666s surrounding 703, and the earth, or Ba'ath Ha'aretz, the spirit of the earth, or the essence of the earth, shows how spirit, in the form of DMT, is imprisoned in matter. And I don't know how literal I would take that, but DMT is Daleth Mem Tau, if you look at it in Hebrew, and that's 444. 444 is a sort of crystalline pattern, and it has a lot to do with the mind, if you look at all its correspondences. DMT, for those who are unfamiliar, is dimethyltryptamine, a neurotransmitter secreted by the pineal gland in mammals and found in many plant species as well. It has been called the spirit molecule since it is known to be secreted during REM sleep, or REM sleep, rapid eye movement, dreaming, and when ingested it has incredibly powerful psychedelic effects simulating out-of-body and near-death experiences. The pineal gland is located in the center of the brain and has been known about for centuries in Eastern religions, where the common bindi is worn at the area of the Bindu chakra, which corresponds to Doth on the Tree of Life and is mainly known as the third eye. See, but Doth also would correspond to the Vishuddha chakra, but on the Tree of Life, the only other one would be either the combination of Chakma and Binah, or Kether, but Kether would really be the Sahasrara. So really, the Bindu is Binah and Chakma and their combination. It's also with Doth, and Doth would lead to the Bindu. So again, the chakras in the Tree of Life, they don't overlay very well unless you take all the pillars into combination, because then there is 7 levels, but they all connect. So the mark of the beast on the forehead refers to this chakra being closed, referring to someone who is spiritually asleep and engrossed in materialism. The symbol of the mark of the beast is a circle with an X, or a cross. And that's basically a closed swastika, or the swastika that has no movement. The elements which have no movement. Which is also, this symbol is that of Malkuth, or the earth, with the 4 directions, 4 elements, and 4 worlds. And again, 444 is Daleth Mem Tau, as well as element, the Akasha, and the key. It's a lot of other things. You'd have to look at the database. The tarot Atu for Aleph is the Fool and is numbered 0. Aleph means ox and is symbolic of mundane consciousness, or the beginning of the path of the initiate. Aleph in Hebrew is 111, unless Pei in its final value of 800 is 831, but it's also the only one that has a triple number, and it's the first one, and it's symbolic of the 3 rays from Kether. But since Aleph is the first ray to emanate from Kether, 111 numerically foreshadows the 3 rays from Kether and its prismatic trinity in the Kabbalah of 9 chambers. The crossing of the abyss is basically what Jesus was accomplishing as the Christ, or Redeemer. Galatians chapter 3, verse 13. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, Cursed is every one that hangeth on a tree. So basically anything that comes into form. The word cross and point both equal 444. As well as the name Jesus, and in Greek, Isus is 888. The cross is Tau, which is attributed to Saturn, lead of the lowest metal of the alchemists. Saturn is the Roman god of time, cycles, agriculture, and liberation, and his Greek equivalent is Kronos, who holds the sickle he used to castrate his father Uranos, the heavens or sky. This is similar to Seth dismembering Osiris, where Osiris loses his phallus. Since Aleph corresponds with the element air, the breath of life, and Tau corresponds with earth, the universe, the tree of knowledge shows the process of spirit incarnating or manifesting in matter. Kether is in Malkuth, and Malkuth is in Kether, but after another manner. Malkuth reflects Kether, for that which is above is like that which is below, and that which is below is like that which is above. Little Essays Towards Truth, Aleister Crowley. The Tarot Atu, as the paths or branches of the tree, are highly potent glyphs of the essence of each path. The letters, the zodiac signs, the meanings of the name of the letter, the full numerical value of the word spelled in full, these are all connected to one another, forming the tree, all on 4 different levels of being. That's the 4 worlds, which are too extensive to get into right now. Actual initiation cannot be verbalized, but words are composed of logos, or logic, language, the divine spark in man, that makes him truly in the likeness of God. A through Z, 26, God, 1 through 26 is 351, Gematria Code. The crossing of the abyss can be expressed in a few ways using Gematria. In my own initiation after obtaining the egg, which I named the Egg of Mu, because it's 107, and Mu is this formula relating to Mayat and the egg and a lot of other things, unveiled to me certain formulae for establishing better understanding of the current spiritual position of humankind and a historical connection with certain forces currently influencing his future direction, forces that are too often ignored or avoided. The egg is symbolic of the number 0. 0 is also the letter O and connected to the number 15 because O is the 15th letter of the alphabet, and the 15th tarot card is that of the devil, which the Hebrew letter Ayin is attributed. Ayin means eye, which is the instrument used to see the world, as well as the pineal eye, which is the inner eye. The 5th element, well, it's a component of the inner eye. The inner eye is really non-local, but the 5th element, the akasha, is symbolized by an egg or a pine cone, in the same shape by which the pineal gland derives its name. The devil is the double, the dual one, the adversary or opposer, also the simulation, or the simulacra, the magic, the illusion. The dual eye is the 0 and the O, or the reflection basically of all and law. And one of Aleister Crowley's most potent formulas was 0 equals 2. The dual one is also 11, the dual 1. Doth, the reflection of Kether. And that's the string theory, the endless string basically connecting everything that is one. And one, again, is the Om. The Om really, everything, all the differences are really just permutations, and they're part of the oneness that is one. Malkuth, earth, is seen and experienced in the eye and the mind, while Yesod, which is the next Sephirah, corresponds to the moon, which also is kind of the mind. Malkuth would be like the body and everything out external, whereas Yesod is the mind, the imagination, the astral. When considering the Tarot Atu of the moon, Kaf means back of the head or the subconscious, the cerebrum. This is glyphed in the moon, Kaf, back of the head, and the sun, head, or the front of the head, coming together as a trinity in the Eon, Shin, which is attributed to the element fire, the upright triangle. Kether, 1, is one end of the spectrum, while Doth, 11, is the other end, the bottomless pit, or the abyss. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 22, Jesus says, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." This shows that even Jesus was aware of the relevance of merging dualities, and probably the third eye itself. It would seem as an outright contradiction that both Lucifer and Jesus are referred to as the morning star. Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12, and Jesus in 2 Peter 1:19, and in Revelation 22:16. Ironically, both Jesus and Lucifer equal 444 in English Gematria. This shows the imitation of Lucifer as God. Lucifer, as the light bearer, carries the 7 colors of the light spectrum. There's 7 letters in Lucifer. The fact that retina is also sits at 6 also shows how Satan and Lucifer is the ruler or archon of this world. Retina just being the eye is used as this sort of symbol and rhetoric about evolution, and the evolution is also sits at 6, and the origin of species. Again, I'm speaking ahead of myself. By seeing beyond the material world, one attains what is termed samadhi, or non-dual consciousness. This is the secret to which many are called, but few are chosen. Well, Jesus also says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye, therefore, wise as serpents, and harmless as doves." Anyhow, the crossing of the abyss is hinted at in the 0, when transformed into the 8, or the infinity symbol really, after the culmination of the perfection of 7. Not only is Doth the 11th after Malkuth, but when counting down from Kether it is the 4th, and when counting up from Malkuth, Doth is the 8th, in the abyss between the 7 lower Sephiroth and the supernal triad. Doth, the abyss, was created when Adam, which is equivalent to Earth, fell from the perfected state in the great cycle of time, i.e. 365 days. Abraxas, the great archon, equals 365, the tree of life equals 365. Also, the Eon card corresponds with Shin, which in full is 365 as well, in Hebrew-English gematria. The word archon means ruler, lord, or authority. The archons are also said to be 7 in number, corresponding to the letters Abraxas, and it is interesting to note that in Genesis, where it says man was created in the image and likeness of God, well, God is once again actually Elohim, in the words, which is plural, and the words are actually, "And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness." The Elohim are also said to be 7 in number, being the archons themselves. 7 is the perfect number in that there are 7 chakras, 7 days of the week, 7 continents, 7 seas, 7 notes on the musical scale, the 7 colors, the 7 possible crystalline figurations, triclinic, monoclinic, orthorhombic, rhomboboedric, quadratic, hexagonal, cubical, and many more. Be it remembered that Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 is composed of 7 words and 28 letters. 28, man in Eden. Also, 7 really is, I don't know, they say it's perfect, but it's the only number that won't divide into the 360 circle perfectly or evenly. It creates a fraction. Anyway, the great aliens definitely have something to do with the archons in the ever-growing illusion now enslaving the spirit of humanity. Humanity is 666 as well. Take a look at a few relevant geometric equations. The great aliens equal 629, archons, and the tree. 620, the number of Kether in Hebrew, plus 73, the number of Chakma, and 67, the number of Binah, or the whole supernal triad, equals 760, the matrix. The number of archons and cosmocrator, the Greek word for rulers of this world referred to in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Cosmocrator or cosmocrator sounds a lot like cosmos creator, which appears to be the case. The original spelling, Cosmocratoris, equals 1192, which is the number of the great alien race, and Liber Os Abysmi Veldath, the technical title of Liber 474. And here's some pictures. There was another picture, but it keeps making it unavailable. They're just some weird pictures I found that I think are significant for how old they are. Note the Mesopotamian wall carving on the left, which is, they've switched when I was trying to edit them, depicts one of the gods holding a pine cone. Remember that the pine cone is symbolic of the pineal gland, or the seed of the soul. The Pinecone Court at the Vatican also has a sculpture of a giant bronze sphere with another sphere breaking out, showing gears and machinery. This same statue also happens to appear in Washington, D.C., as well as the United Nations headquarters in New York. It also looks similar to the vertically slit pupil of the reptilians, which are allegedly underground. And obviously that's just in their little lore. I don't really believe in reptilians, but I think that obviously the whole symbology of the reptile and the draconian tradition and the the subconscious mind, the reptilian mind itself, it's very telling for multiple reasons for human psychology. Even though it is probably a very daunting task to read this, I hope I am at least showing the undeniable connection between all the things I have said thus far. I could even show using gematria that the stories of gray aliens at Groom Lake, Area 51, might actually be true, since the Greys equals the Groom Lake facility. Groom Lake is also 999, reptilian greys, possession, deep ones. Groom Lake test site is Cthulhu. I just think that that's all symbolic and it's funny. Gray alien abduction is 469, the number of demons, serpents, Area 51 alien. There are so many more, but to really see it all, you need to create your own gematria database. And that's what I was going to say is, in creating the database, that's when all this stuff started to become really obvious. And that's why I felt the need to say something about it, because I don't know, it's too much. Anyway, there is no need to ingest DMT, so I'm not condoning it because technically it's illegal. You'd have to make it yourself if you're going to do it, or extract it yourself, really. But doing the math of gematria itself can affect the release of DMT and bring about a higher state of awareness of the interconnectedness of reality. And I don't know, maybe not release DMT literally, but it does. If you really do the gematria over time, you'll see this fractal. And yeah, you don't even need to do the DMT. The DMT will be like, if you did it's 8 to 10 minutes of something outside of your physical or mundane consciousness, and sometimes it helps to do that to really, like, it's like flipping a light switch on and off, at least going out of your mind through psychedelics. It can help see the differences and the possibilities, and that's really why I think people do psychedelics in particular. And obviously there's different reasons people do drugs, especially the more addictive depressants and stimulants. Once you do that, you're doing it because it becomes an addiction and you don't feel normal without it. So, but with psychedelics, I think that there's a lot to be said for the potentials and the possibilities, and that's why artists and various people did it a long time ago. And yeah, though without proper balance, it can be overall quite detrimental as well if you don't understand what you're doing, if you don't understand the context, if you're just doing it to get high, or or if you're doing it to boost your ego, it does the opposite. So anyway, dangerous knowledge is 592, the number of the gematria database, and all sorts of other things. Like it just shows these reflections and connections in the illusion itself. The fact that the Nag Hammadi manuscripts and the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered around the time of the UFO age, describing very old accounts of transionic demons or others, as well as the time we are entering the atomic age and becoming a very materialistic and disempowered civilization. Despite the fact we think we're all empowered, we're really not. It takes a lot of power to really even maintain your power or have any influence, lacking in adequate discipline for our technological capabilities. The connection between such technologies, like the nuclear weapons being developed in areas associated with UFO phenomena, Area 51, New Mexico, etc., is shown not only by the appearance of both nuclear weapons and numerous reports of UFO and alien encounters around the same time, the mid-1940s, but gematria once again shows specific connections. Nuclear weapon, 888, the Great Aliens. Allegedly, our nuclear tests ended up causing interference with this particular race of entities who crashed at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947 and Aztec, New Mexico in 1948, both near nuclear facilities where the Trinity test site was located. At least that's the going train of thought among ufologists and whatnot. The phrase "we are not alone" and "first contact" also equal 888, showing the reality of such a situation. We are not alone, first contact. It's kind of like, it's just funny. 888 also equals simple gematria, English gematria, a message from God, God's numbering, gematria, code of God, morning star, divine presence, omnipresent, and last but not least, it's all in the egg. Yeah, those were just, I believe, English gematria codes. Oops. Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. You really have to just see it all in perspective. I wouldn't say believe in any of that, anything regarding aliens. It's really, again, me trying to find the limits of this matrix, and I was preoccupied with the idea of aliens, I'll admit that, because my whole childhood kind of there was a sort of alien shadow lingering, I guess you could say. Anyway, one very important discovery I made last year in 2011 on November 15th, I decided to take the English alphabet and number it like the tarot is numbered. A beginning is 0, A would actually be 1, 2, C would be 2, Z would be 25. So I fucked up there. I'll fix it. It led me to the realization that the initiate begins his going on both the path of the fool and the path of the universe, as the sword descends and the serpent ascends. The 0 of the fool transmutes into the infinity of the magician when there is an oneric perichoresis at the point of Tiferet or Thagirion, which is the black sun, or just the Qliphoth of Tiferet. Basically, when the waking self merges with what you could call not necessarily just the dream self, but the over self, or the integration with his own shadow side. My own revelation came as I was just learning about the Kabbalah, the Qliphoth, and the Eons, primarily using gematria as a tool for creating what Aleister Crowley and Kenneth Grant call a magical universe. The cipher I came up with doesn't yield very much practical value, though it did lead me to some particular things that are really only of personal value. The oddest thing, though, is that when testing the validity of this cipher, I used gematrix.org to calculate A as 0 and Z 25, and then later discovered that the date I discovered it, this whole thing, when spelled out, equals the same number in Jewish gematria, November 15, 2011. 6 is the number of Tiferet, the sun, and the spirit of the sun is named Sorath and equals 666. The fullest emanation of 6. 6 is the dual 3, obviously, which is symbolic of the Satanic Trinity imitating the Holy Trinity. So the sun is itself just a manifestation of the Trinity. The number 33, or the 2 threes, is the formula of magic, since 33 is the number of the 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths, and then including Doth, the cohesion of it all, or knowledge. There are 33 vertebrae in the human body along which the Kundalini rises, and obviously Jesus died at 33, so it's symbolic of the hanged man or the scapegoat, and also the illumination. 33 is the honorary degree in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10, spelled out, is 1 through 33. Which is 561, which is also the lamp, actually, oddly enough. I was just calculating that. P-H-E-L-A-M-P. So the number of this blog post. Letter number, manifestation, which, manifestation, I believe, with the shin. Let's see. Yeah, manifestation, spelled with the shin. Mercury, and Tao Te Ching. So all those connections, it's just, again, each little number, people would be like, oh, well, what's the, you have to look it all together. And then that's the reflection. 165 is, so I don't know, I'm just seeing connections. That's what I do when I write this and read it. And Jesus died at the age 33, allegedly at 333, and rose again from the tomb 3 days later. 33 is one of the most important numbers in numerology. I'll have to fix that. And there is much that I don't have the room or time to discuss. And there is much that I don't have the room or time to discuss here. I will talk about Freemasonry later on, but know that there are 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite, and that there is a very old convoluted area of study regarding the connection of secret Freemasonic lodges in collusion with organizations such as the United Nations, whose many member, and their flag has 33 spots on the graph, or the, what is it, the latitude, longitude things, whose many members are connected to various secret fraternal societies. I first got into both magic and conspiracy theories after listening to the music of Marilyn Manson, which I've mentioned prior to this, and I recommend this article by Nick Kushner, King Kill 33 Degrees, which explains more of the connections between Marilyn Manson, or MM, and 33. The number of my name, 102, equals the name of the great magician Mayan, and is 33 times 3 plus 3. So you got the 233, the 3's there too. And it just shows this functional aspect of this whole 3 thing, manifestation and all that. The egg I have mentioned actually gave me a sigil to place on the box I store it. Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I have this sort of I found certain things about it. This sigil is composed of 3 interlocking circles, which each contain a word that equals 33 from the Bible: one, God, and not. These are the 1st, 13th, and 19th chronological words that equal 33, and 1 plus 13 plus 19 is 33. There's more to that whole thing, but I'm not going to get into it right now. 1, Achad, God, A-L, and not, L-A, are formulae discovered by Frater Achad, and they are elaborated upon throughout Kenneth Grant's books. Frater Achad's private correspondences and documents were drawn upon a great deal in Outside the Circles of Time in 1980, and as of this year, it has been 32 years since they were first mentioned. These documents are being prepared by Starfire Publishing Limited, and may be finished towards December, hitting nearly 33 years since Grant first unveiled most of this material. See, I should have wrote that. I should have made any of this mentioned, because now they're apparently probably never going to publish it. The cipher I was discussing before I digressed about 33 by no means matches the importance of the New Eon English Kabbalah, which, I don't know. I thought this was kind of important, but I haven't come up with much use for it, just in cross-checking certain things, but it does veil the formula of the crossing of the abyss, ordeal X. Doth exists as the empty space where there is no difference between one thing and any other. As the reflection of the infinite unity Kether, Doth as 11 corresponds first to Vishuddha, 111 or 101, which is the value of 11. The throat chakra, where it is supplemented by the Anya, An, and Kaf, the cerebrum. See, I connected. They kind of work together. 101 is the number of self, also, and shows that the self, or one, is the reflection of the higher, as above, so below, yet still a part of the whole. When the 0 is crossed and the 2 polarities merge, like on the caduceus or staff of Mercury, 101 becomes 181, the number of Kundalini, the serpent that rises through the chakras, crosses the abyss, and illuminates the epiphysis cerebri, or the pineal gland, which has the value of 1225, the same value as human logos, and the sum of 1 through 49. And note that 49 is 7 times 7, and there has been an old legend among the Tibetan Buddhists that the soul reincarnates 49 days after death. And in his book, DMT, the Spirit Molecule, Dr. Rick Strassman shows that the pineal gland is formed in the brain and begins DMT production on the 49th day after conception. Incidentally, 1225 is the number of 49 days spelled out in Jewish gematria. Epiphysis cerebri is the scientific name for the pineal gland and can equal 745, which is then the number for Sri Chakra and sixth sense. So yeah, I could go on forever about this, and I need to fix some things. But I could go on forever about this, but I just wanted to get some connections out there. Using the main cipher I've been using, Hebrew applied to English, it is apparent that a definite cryptogrammatrix underlies manifestation, and can be deciphered according to the initiate's level of understanding. It is up to the initiate to find their own will, the number of which is 76, and the same value as Ankh, the key of life in the universe. So the key of life is, the key to the cryptogram, the key of it all. And again, the Ankh is the tree of life. So it's all connected anyway, in the universe, rather than be ignorant to the mysteries of life, knowing not their purpose in the great work. By refining the chakras, the initiate is then able to more accurately respond to the planetary forces imposed on him at various times. So then, things like, again, Saturn, these sort of restrictive things that even hold this knowledge in place, such as through the cycles of time, aren't necessarily things that they're not necessarily negative. Sometimes they're necessary. You need those growth cycles and periods and even problems to learn from and to grow from. But at the same time, it's when you don't learn or grow from them that becomes a problem. But anyway, I'm currently still editing the text formatting of this, even fucking now, because I never went back and did, in previous pages as I can. And using special symbols and all the links makes it all the more difficult. And that's why publishing any of this in like a physical format would be really difficult. And I felt like I needed to do this in this format. That way it can get out more, it's more dynamic, and yada, yada, yada. Know that many of the links to Gematrix for the Hebrew values of words may be different than the numbers I give them, since Gematrix does not count the end values of... Yeah, it doesn't count the final values, so you'll have to take that into account. I usually make the end letter bold, but if you look at it, it doesn't take it into account. You have to count it. And that's why these mechanical systems, you can't just decode this with an automatic system. It takes someone to point out the detail, or to pick up on the details and the nuances. May these words help those who need them most. Luke chapter 8, verse 10, and he said, Unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand.